Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Thank you. Welcome to B4Play for Casey and Diana by Nick Green. As you all know, the Belfry is located on the traditional territories of the Lekwungen-speaking peoples. And so on behalf of everyone at the Belfry, I extend our sincerest gratitude to the Songhees and Kasapsan nations for the privilege of living and creating on this land, which has been in their care for centuries. Is there anyone here for the first time before Play? Welcome, welcome, welcome. So Before Play is a collaboration between CBC Radio and the Belfry, and it was designed to just to provide insight and information and interesting aspects to the upcoming production. CBC then broadcasts the individual interviews kind of through the run of our show, and because we record it for CBC, please make sure that your cell phones are turned off. And it's also being broadcast live on Facebook. And you can also see them as podcasts on the Belfry website. The very first Before Play was in 2012. We've been doing it for 14 years. It was for a production of Red, which was a play about Mark Rothko. And purely coincidentally, there's aspects of the set of Casey and Diana that actually kind of look like Rothko paintings. So it's kind of a full circle. So I don't think I need to say anything else to introduce this. We all know Gregor Craigie, who has been hosting this for all 14 years. He's missed one in all of years. So, thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Michael. I can't believe that that's 2012. Wow. Okay. Well, very nice to see new faces and familiar faces. Thanks for coming to the final Before Play of this season. Our first guest is Morgan David Jones, who plays Thomas in Casey and Diana. Morgan is an Australian actor now based in Toronto, best known for his role in Aaron Sorkin's Molly's Game. His television credits include Designated Survivor, Rain, and Supernatural. He's toured internationally and played at the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. Perhaps you've heard of it. The Brooklyn, as well as the Brooklyn Academy of Music in A Streetcar Named Desire, alongside Kate Blanchett. And directed by Liv Ullmann. For which he was nominated for a Helen Hayes Award. Casey and Diana marks his first Belfry appearance. Please welcome Morgan David Jones.
Hello. I hope you can understand my accent.
On that point, as an Australian playing all sorts of roles, and then one could ask this of many actors, do you ever find yourself just switching accents randomly out and about at a store or on a bus or what have you?
I actually 100% do. I mean, I've been here for 16 years, but I will start by introducing myself. Hi, I'm Morgan. How are you? Like, I will do that. I will assimilate until the conversation gets, further in the night, and then my Australian comes out. But it's fun. Yeah. Those are people that I've met out that don't believe I'm Australian because I don't think about it. It just comes out naturally, but I definitely speak with more of a North American accent. Yeah.
Now, what about...
Much to my parents' dismay.
Oh, yeah. What about your first piece of theater? I mean, you've acted a lot in television and film as well, but what is your first memory of theater?
It's burnt in my memory. I would have been about 5 or 6, and my parents, shout out to my amazing family, literally dragged. I have a memory of me laying on the ground and being dragged by my father to Midsummer Night's Dream in the Royal Botanic Gardens in Brisbane. Oh, wow. And I did not want to see it, clearly. I still don't know I do now, but I don't know if I understood the show. But it was set in the gardens, and we moved through different sets in the gardens, and it was so magical that I was transfixed. And I can see the actors' faces in my mind. Like, it's like I know exactly who they are. It was just this, like, unleashed this creative kind of spark that I didn't know I had. And I just was like, I didn't know if that's what I wanted to do, but I was like, this is something special to really transform and take us anywhere.
So when did you decide you wanted to pursue acting a bit more specifically?
I mean, there were a couple of pillars of like some moments of, you know, doing a drama class here and there, but I was, not anymore, but I was a very shy kid. My parents put me in like an after-school acting class when I was maybe 12, just to kind of break me out of my shell. And it was like the love of being able to play and just kind of fail miserably but laugh at it at the same time. Mm-hmm. And I remember coming home and saying, I want to be an actor. And the look on my parents' face was utter dread of like, what have we done? And then they, like, of course, they made me like have a backup career because, you know, this industry is pretty crazy. And so I think that was the moment that I was like, there's something in this that the joy that you get, you just can't get anywhere else. And I was like, I have to pursue this in any shape I can. Yeah.
And so can you tell us a bit about that, how you've pursued it? What has been your professional journey as an actor?
I honestly think there's a huge like butterfly effect. So that acting class I did, we did a showcase, which led to me landing my first agent, which moved on to my first ever theater production. And I turned professional when I was 14. I mean, the coolest thing when I was 14 was just being able to leave school because I was, you know, I'm doing a play. But I did a lot of professional work before I went to drama school. I was very, very lucky to have had some great theatrical moments. But I think the butterfly effect really that changed my life was after drama school, I was doing a theater and education. So like me and another actor in a car, driving to schools, setting up a set in a gym, closing it down. So nothing too glamorous at all. But Melbourne Theatre Company were doing a production of The History Boys by Alan Bennett. And I was in Melbourne, and we reached out to try to get an audition. And they said, no, we've seen enough of Morgan, thank you. And I was out having drinks with a few actors, and one actor said, are you really going to take no for an answer? And I was like, I mean, what can I do? And he's like, do you think you'd be amazing in the role? And I was like, yes. And he's like, then find a way. So I'm not encouraging people to do this. It worked in my favor, but I wrote to casting and the director every 2 days for 3 weeks until I got a call from my agent going, what are you doing? And they said, we'll audition Morgan if he just stops hounding us. But I booked the role, I got incredible reviews, and because of that production, Sydney Theatre Company saw it and asked me to audition for Streetcar Named Desire, and then I moved to North America. So it's like those moments of you have to actually show up for yourself if you know you can do it, but that was like the biggest kind of turning point of like my career, and just kind of that butterfly effect of just go for it if you really believe that you can do it.
What great advice though, hey, when you were in Melbourne with those actors, and the question was, do you believe you could do it?
Yeah.
Would you be great?
Yeah, you do, because like some people are like, oh, I'd love to do that role, but you have to go, it was a role that I was like, this is like my name written on it. I was like, come on, I have to, it's a challenge, but I was like, I knew I could do really, really great work in it. And we're having that conviction and having the talent to back it up, I think is also what is a big thing. So like hounding casting is not something I would suggest, but you do have to have that belief. And yeah, I mean, this industry's crazy that if you don't believe in yourself, then who else will? So you got to start there.
Now, only a rare group of actors can say that they've performed on Broadway with Cate Blanchett. How was that experience?
Well, it was in Brooklyn, but yes,
okay.
It was incredible. I mean, I was 26 at the time. Cate is, I mean, you know, she's one of the greatest of all times, but also being directed by Liv Ullmann, who I was a huge, incredible fan of. It was not lost on me how you just won't have these type of moments ever again. But I mean, that said, like I think every actor has it. Like in the first week, I am always sitting there waiting for them to go, "Oh, we sent the contract to the wrong Morgan," and I'm just waiting for the tap on my shoulder, and I'm like, but it was, it obviously didn't happen. But I mean, Kate is extraordinary. I learned a lot. I think I was in one scene in a 3.5-hour play, and a lot of actors didn't come up to rehearsals, but I was like, how many times are you going to get the chance to watch one of the greats work and figure out playing one of the great roles of all time? Mm-hmm. So I went to rehearsals every day and sat in the back and just watched Liv and Kate and Joel Edgerton and just like Robin McLeavy just work, because I like just to see how they construct and how they push and how they create something together was life-changing for a 26-year-old. But I mean, a little funny story though that allowed my nerves to dissipate. I played the young collector, so he's the paper boy who comes, knocks on her door, she invites him, she seduces him in a way, they have a little kiss, he freaks out and runs away. I mean, he's 16 and she's 40. So I understand. In the script that we were using, we did the scene, and we got some notes, we talked about it, and then Kate was on the other side of the room, and in the scene it says she blows him a kiss because he's there kind of frozen, and he runs away. And I said, "Oh, Kate, are you going to blow me a kiss?" And she's like, "Oh, do you want that?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, I mean, if you want, but it's in the script, it's just like it's a kind of cue for me." She's like, "Sure." She misheard me, so we do the scene, and we go for the kiss, and it is a full makeout session with Kate Blanchett. And I'm like, okay. Well, I mean, as if it didn't know if I was gay, or I knew I was gay. But the director, Liv, was like, "Wow, that was a really great scene. Can we talk about that kiss?" And Kate was like, "Well, Morgan asked for it." And I was like, "No, I asked you to blow me a kiss." So, I mean, we all kind of just lost it. And that moment, it was like the celebrity and the like nervous actor kind of all dissipated, and we were just like two players having a hoot and a half.
Yeah. I did wonder about that because, as an actor, the audience is one thing. I don't know if you've ever suffered stage fright.
I have not stage fright in a way. I played Romeo at the Citadel, and I have done the monologue a billion times since I was like 15, and I had to climb the fence, and I'm like, I have no idea what my lines are. Oh. And I've never had that. I've had moments that you kind of skip, and I'm like, I have no idea how to start it or what I'm doing, and I'm like, I just got to jump on stage, and then you just have to jump, and then it all flies back. And
it did.
It did.
In that case, yeah.
Yeah.
But what about,
in that case,
what about like coming across or working with an absolute world-renowned celebrity?
Yeah.
And you've worked with some very famous actors. Do you ever sort of have to calm the butterflies in your tummy simply because of who you're suddenly working with?
Yeah, I think at first I think theater's different. Like with Kate, we got a 5-week rehearsal period, so we developed a great friendship, and then we did a 3.5 month international tour. So all the kind of things that you thought or created of who this celebrity is, kind of slowly, they're just human beings. It's hard when you're on set. Like Molly's Game, my first day on set was opposite Jessica Chastain and Idris Elba. Mm-hmm. And we had met 3 seconds ago, and you're like, okay, here we go. So it's like, that is traumatizing in a way that it's also thrilling, and you have to just level up. And I think that's where I think some actors kind of shut down. I think that's what I love about live theater is, like, there's an audience, and some actors just, like, there's another level that they switch into, and I think that is what's so special, and I think that's what I take away from the celebrity culture. Yeah.
Well, so let's talk about Casey and Diana coming up at the Belfry. Without giving away any spoilers, can you give us a sense of it? First off, who is Casey and who is Diana?
So Diana, Princess Diana, I think we all know. And Casey is representative of the Casey House in Toronto, which is Canada's first ever AIDS hospice for people living with AIDS. And now that was formed really out of necessity. That in those times, being in the palliative care unit, we've talked about it a lot, that those patients weren't being given the care that they needed. Some staff were even scared to walk into the rooms, so their food was left outside, and these are, patients who were bedridden. So it was created really, in my mind, a place for dignity and a human way of their last moments and guiding them through those last moments, which is just an extraordinary, powerful message. And there's one of my favorite lines in the play is done by Vera, who is the head nurse, and she's like, "We're here to help men with AIDS die." And that is a beautiful gift to be in those last moments and having that, the dignity of being a human and not a disease. So the play really centers around Princess Diana's visit to the Casey house in 1991, and I play Thomas, who is one of the residents of the Casey house. And my character is obsessed with Diana, so finding out that she's coming on the last few days of his life and knowing that it's a week's time, the personal struggle of holding on day after day. How do you pick yourself up? How do you pick up everybody else around you? What is your role there? How do you show up for people? And it's the journey of every single day being a new fight, every simple little thing of just walking or getting out of bed, how that can just help project you to getting to that goal. And it is, we do know that when they found out that Diana was coming, there were people who were nearly dying, that no one died in that entire time, that every single person held on for the hope, for the goal to meet her, which is just so powerful. And giving those people that moment and that the dignity and just allowing them something special before their final days.
It certainly is powerful. When you understood what the role of Thomas was, did you immediately jump at it? I mean, was it an immediate yes, or was there any kind of hesitation because of the gravity?
It was immediate yes, because it is a it is a beast of a role. Michael's smiling over there. It is first of all, technically, dialogue wise, is extraordinary, but it's such an opportunity. I'm a man in my 40s, I'm gay, I'm very proud of it. To be able to portray someone who went through this nightmare in times of being exiled practically for who they were or who they loved. And it's lost, half a generation is lost that my generation has lost. And it was I had to jump at the chance to be able to portray someone that I want to honor and portray with, love and compassion. And they're complex, then my character doesn't always do the right thing, but that's human nature. And to be able to dive into a role that has that type of complexity and that meatiness is amazing. And I am equally thrilled and equally petrified, but yeah.
What about your own knowledge, experience, relationship with the AIDS crisis? I wonder if you were essentially there and up to speed, for lack of a better term, when you took on this role, or if you had to do a lot of research and preparation for that?
Both. I knew a lot about the AIDS epidemic. I used to volunteered, and I worked full-time for the HIV and Hep C Society in BC when I lived in Vancouver. And we were more like an outreach program that we would go into schools and we would talk to them about STIs and safer sex. But the biggest thing was really dismantling stigma around AIDS and HIV or anything really tied into that world. And so I learned a lot we had nurses with us that we would go in. So I learned all that side of things. The research aspect for this was really personal stories. This is a human story of fight and struggle, and reading in their own words people who have told their story of living through it, of burying their friends every month to every 2 weeks to every week, and then their own diagnosis. And then also my biggest research with Thomas was not just the physical, but the mental and emotional kind of journey that you go on in those last days. And so mapping that out in this show for 7 days of where Thomas is physically, what he can't do physically, to where he can the next day, and the journey, that was the biggest research of finding the medical and also the emotional kind of stages of where they're at.
What do you hope audiences take away after seeing this play?
Honestly, I mean, first of all, I think it would be great, just come see it, and then you tell me what you take away. Because I think I'm really curious to see how people respond, and I think we're all from different generations and different walks of life, that I think it would be beautiful to see how we take away different things. I think my main core is really about self-reflection, because this play is really about showing up for yourself, for your loved ones, but also for a community. Like, we wouldn't be where we are if it wasn't for the incredible people who, the nurses, the friends, the volunteers, the people who fought regulation, the people who stood up to the government, who fought to get notice. Like, when do we show up? And so I think self-reflection in our lives, we may not be fighting the same battles, but where do we show up for ourselves in our everyday life, and when do we show up even more for the people around us and our greater community, even when we don't want to? And I think that is a huge takeaway for me in my own personal life and journey. But I think it's such a human story. You don't need to be going through this struggle, but I think we could all relate to feeling down and out, and stepping up and focusing on those across the room from us and how we can better their lives.
It's terrific to have you with us. Thank you so much. It has been very generous of you. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Morgan David Jones plays Thomas in Casey and Diana. Our next guest is Dr. Kelly Stagehar, professor at the University of Victoria's School of Nursing and its Institute on Aging and Lifelong Health. Kelly is a registered nurse, a fellow of the Royal Society of Canada, a fellow of the Canadian Academy of Nursing, a fellow of the Canadian Academy of Health Services, a Canada Research Chair in Palliative Approaches to Care in Aging and Community Health, and Special Advisor for Health Research in the Office of the University of Victoria's Vice President of Research and Innovation. Please welcome Kelly to B4Play.
I'm not going to be as funny as Morgan. I can tell you that right now. I didn't even know there was an audience when I was coming this morning.
Well, great to have you with us here.
Thank you.
What about your own background in nursing? How and when did you discover you wanted to have a career in nursing?
Yeah, I didn't really want to be a nurse because my mom wanted me to be a nurse, and I was really resistant. But actually, when I was in high school, I just had this wonderful opportunity to do a course that put me into different places, working with different people, and I kind of figured I'm actually not too bad with people. I like them a lot, and so I didn't know what I was going to do, so I thought, well, okay, I'll just try nursing because I like working with people, and I don't regret that decision ever. I've just loved being a nurse my entire career.
Now, your credentials, your CV is pretty impressive. Can you talk us a bit about your professional journey from there until now?
It's a long and winding one. Like, I'm a very pragmatic person, so I was one of these people who I'd go to school for a bit and then I'd practice as a nurse and I'd reflect on that and then I'd say, oh, I don't know this and maybe I'll go back to school again, and I kind of did that, and the credentials are a bit embarrassing in some ways. I feel proud that, I've been recognized by colleagues and things, but those kind of recognitions really come from the privilege of being able to work with so many amazing people in the community, and so those kind of credentials are really a result of partly maybe my own work, but also the work that we collectively do to support people who are coming to the end of their lives, and that's really been a focus of my entire career.
Yeah, well, let me ask you about that, because your list of expertise is pretty impressive. Palliative and end-of-life care, chronic, life-limiting illness, oncology, HIV/AIDS, marginalized and vulnerable populations, gerontology, home care, health and social policy, and that's only part of the list, by the way. But can you talk to us specifically about palliative care and the principles and philosophy around it?
Yeah, I mean, so I would say I've been a palliative care nurse for over 35 years. I say I'm a person first, a nurse second, and a researcher and academic third. And I'd say pretty early in my career, actually the first, and maybe the reason I'm here, the first 2 months of being a nurse in Winnipeg, I cared for a young man who was dying of AIDS and his partner. And I grew up in rural Manitoba, so, you know, if I'd ever known somebody who was gay, I would have not known, because there was a lot of stigma. And I would say that that experience of caring for Robert, was his name, and his partner, was probably fundamental to how I thought about care for people, and particularly care for people as they're coming toward the end of their lives. And so even though I've worked in all kinds of areas clinically, and emergency departments and ICUs and surgical wards in the community with Indigenous communities, for me, it's always been focused around, as people are progressing in life, and as people's illnesses exhibit themselves, how do we actually better support people? And not focus so much on their disease, but focus on who people are. And so palliative care is really about, not so much about a place, like often in Victoria we think about Victoria Hospice, or we think about a palliative care unit, but palliative care is not a place. It's an approach and a philosophy that really takes into account whole person care. And that means really focusing on, for sure, people's illnesses that they're diagnosed with, but how is that nested within their broader social fabric, their spirituality, and really focusing on whole person care. And so the favorite question as a nurse that I would ask people when I was doing clinical work would be, what do I need to know about you to provide good care for you? I want to know about people as people, because we're all different.
That must be quite something for people, that, as patients, to hear you ask. What kinds of responses have you gauged over the years? When people have had you ask them that question? Yeah,
it's. I like the question because it gives people the opportunity to share what they want to share, and so lots of people will, kind of respond in ways like, I don't like, ice in my water, or like things like that. And then there are people that share things like, I've had a really traumatic upbringing. And, when I'm in the healthcare system, I'm scared because I haven't felt safe for most of my life. So I want to take that into account when I'm looking after people. How do I take into account that perhaps they've had experiences in their life, and, for a lot of gay men diagnosed with AIDS, they had lives of stigma. And so I have to understand that as a nurse to be able to provide good care, so that I actually can also coach, my colleagues that I was working alongside who were scared. Healthcare people were legitimately scared in those days. But also there was a lot of judgment, and I always say that the thing that I really learned from that first person that I cared for, and I went on in my career to do a lot of volunteer work in the AIDS community. I was a volunteer clinical nurse specialist in the AIDS community here in Victoria for many years, and it really shaped how, like when you're 21, 22, it's like people are just people. And, if you can kind of get past, it's not up to me to judge what decisions people make. People are just people, and when they need care, they need care. And that's my job as a nurse. That's the kind of promise that I made to myself when I became a nurse, is that, all people deserve good quality care. And that extends into lots of work I do now with people we see on Pandora Avenue and those kinds of things, that every human being deserves good care, and they deserve to be known for who they are as people. And then my job is to figure out how I best support those individual needs.
And so you started out in Manitoba, and you've been nursing and researching here in Victoria for many years, but I understand you also did some training at Casey House in Toronto, is that right?
Yeah, so in those days, so after I cared for that after I cared for Robert, I was living in Winnipeg at the time, and I decided, it actually inspired me to go back to school, and I came to the University of Victoria, and I had a 2-year diploma as a nurse, and I went back and got my undergraduate degree, and I became really involved in the AIDS community. But again, everything was so new, and the place in Canada to go to actually understand how to give good palliative care to people with AIDS was Casey House. And so I had the privilege of visiting Casey House 3 times in different capacities, learning from staff there, shadowing the nurses that were working there so that I could learn from them, and really, you know, a lot of people think about dying and palliative care as kind of doom and gloom, but I never witnessed that there. Certainly hard, but also lots of joy, and importantly, love and community. And I think that's what has always kind of brought me to nursing. Really, is you know, how do we actually work in and with communities and people to provide the best care possible? So I loved Casey House for that. I was entirely inspired, and it led me to become involved in a organization in Victoria called the Victoria AIDS Respite Care Society, and it was just the most wonderful organization of primarily gay men and lesbian women who really, because so many people in the health system didn't want to care for people with AIDS, they developed an organization where they cared for each other. And I just learned everything about how to be a good nurse and how to be a good person. Mm-hmm. You know, how to just really be a good person. And it was just many things become formative in your career and in your life. But that, I would say, you were in this constant state of reflection. Gosh, I'm pushing up against these things that maybe feel icky to me, but why? Why do they feel icky, Kelly? Why, you know? So it's just always, and that's the thing I've loved about nursing, is that, and the communities that I get to work with, it's the places where, and I've always in palliative care tried to work with people who maybe a lot of people don't want to care for. And part of that is selfish, because it actually helps me to learn about myself. And so, you know, I just have always felt that privilege of care.
June Callwood initiated the creation of Casey House when the AIDS crisis was at its height. And of course, HIV/AIDS is still with us, but the diagnosis is no longer a death sentence. Can you give us an update? Can you tell us the current status of HIV/AIDS?
Yeah, I mean, it's not a death sentence in the global north. It's not a death sentence maybe in the gay man community. It's still a death sentence for a lot of people, for example, who use drugs. So I would say that, you know, over the course of time, and it was really through the advocacy of people in the AIDS community that you know, we can give all the accolades to scientists who developed the drugs that have made AIDS in some contexts a chronic illness, but actually those accolades should be going to those people in the early days who fought for that to happen. And you know, it was a fight. For some folks have some gray hair, so they will remember that there was lots of marches, there was lots of outspokenness, lots of, you know, people rallying, particularly Hollywood celebrities and Diana rallying around, and that's what has made the disease. But it still kills people in certain parts of the world, and even in our own country. We just don't see rallying around people who use drugs, for example.
And so what do you think about the current state of healthcare here in BC and Canada?
I mean, what I would say is, yeah, it's a good question. On some days I'm like rallying against it. And some days I'm like, people in the health system are working pretty darn hard under really challenging circumstances. And I mean, I spent half of my career in clinical practice and in kind of clinical educator roles. And I've never met, somebody in healthcare that went into healthcare because they wanted to do a terrible job or, So I think still we get pretty good healthcare in Canada compared to a lot of places in the world. It's not perfect, and there's lots of issues, and there's lots of reforms, I would say, that need to happen in the health system. But I would say on average, they get care. We're in a system where most people are never refused care, as happens in other parts of the world, even in our neighbors to the south. So, yeah, it's in a bit of chaos. And, personally, I feel it's a need for actually a seismic shift in how it is that we spend our healthcare dollars. Most of our money in healthcare goes to hospitals, doctors, and drugs. That's what's in the Canada Health Act, where our health system actually really needs to better support people in primary care, in the community, in their homes where people want to be. And we need courage on the part of our leaders to actually make those shifts.
I know you have not read the play yet, Casey and Diana, but you are going to be there on opening night, I understand.
I am.
And what do you expect to see on opening night?
Well, I expect to see all the kind of, I would imagine in a play one wants to give people a kind of embodied feel of what it must have been like in those times to live as primarily people who were stigmatized, which honestly was really, really horrific. On the other hand, I think that at least my view of Casey House and in many places in palliative care that I've had the opportunity to work, there's also a lot of love, joy. I've been drawn to palliative care because it's the place that I can be who I am as a person and who I am as a nurse, and genuineness of care. So I expect to see a mix of those kinds of things in the play, and I'm really looking forward to opening night.
Kelly, thank you so much for joining us in front of a live audience.
Thank you.
Dr. Kelly Stager is a professor at the University of Victoria's School of Nursing and its Institute on Aging and Lifelong Health. All right, our final guest needs no introduction, but let me tell you that Michael Shimada is the director of Casey and Diana, also a former stage manager at the Shaw and Stratford festivals, and the former artistic director of Theatre New Brunswick and the Grand Theatre in London, Ontario. He's written adaptations of A Christmas Carol and The Wind in the Willows, and collaborated on adaptations of Dracula, The Secret Garden, and Griffin and Sabine, and will soon return to being a freelance director. So please give a warm welcome once again to Michael Shimada.
I just want to mention that Kelly came and spoke to the cast during rehearsals, and I hope we took all the advice that you gave us. So thanks, Gregor. Yeah.
Can you tell us about this play, first of all? Why did you choose Casey?
Yeah. I read it a couple of years ago. It premiered at Stratford 3 years ago, I think, and really loved it. I guess my first priority is to kind of fall in love with the play. I don't. Yeah, and then the play also has to have something that audiences can take away with them. And this play is such a tribute to. Well, it's a tribute to people like Kelly, like everything that Kelly just spoke about, and who she is. The people that. And as Morgan said, I always, as a director, you try to, put into one or two words what a play is about. Like what is the kind of final takeaway for people? And as I told the cast on opening, I think it is about people showing up. The way that Princess Diana showed up, the way that there's a nurse in the play that has the qualities that Kelly has, that is there for the right reasons. There's a volunteer who is there for, she thinks, the right reasons, but not necessarily. Thomas has a sister who has a very difficult time showing up, and then there's Diana, and it's a beautiful look at a difficult time, and also a very as Kelly said, a very beautiful time at this, as well. And every character has a very different journey, but ultimately they I don't know if they end up in the same place, but they get closer to where they want it to be.
Now, Diana visited Casey House in 1991.
Yeah.
The HIV/AIDS crisis, as depicted in the play, is behind us, as it was then. What does the play have to say today, Michael? In
I think I maybe just answered that. I think it was a crisis, and it's. I think it's good to be reminded of that time and of the stigma. There's a young East Asian boy who has been kicked out of his home by his family because he was gay. They don't know that he has AIDS, but he's totally on his own. There are stories that it's worth remembering about that time. Yeah, but also, I think to look at, again, to echo Kelly, to look at the positive that came out of that and the way that people rallied and stood up for what they believed in.
Now, this is your final production as artistic director of the Belfry. Is there anything special for you about this play, this production?
Yeah, special because it's the last one. It's special because I'm working. It's a great blend. It's a cast of 6. There are 6 wonderful actors that I have never worked with before, and 3, and there are 3 actors with whom I've had long relationships, including Celine Stubel. So it's that's a wonderful kind of mix of new and old for me. The play, it's kind of my kind of play. It's got a big heart, which is something I respond to. It's also a time I lived. I was 35 at the time that Diana visited Casey House. But yeah, it's special because every day it's kind of the last, the last first day, the last B4Play, the last, so it's, it sometimes it catches, I got caught off guard and get a little bit emotional, but that's not a bad thing.
I loved your description earlier that you have to fall in love with a play. I believe you 100%, having seen so many of the plays you've programmed over the years. I think it just leaps out that that's your approach.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Now, I have in my hand a series of questions for Michael from the Belfry staff. And I wonder, you have 2 options as to how you would like to approach this. Would you like to do the quickies, the kind of the Proust rapid fire questionnaire first, and then move on to the deeper thoughts, or the reverse?
I leave it to you.
Okay, all right. Let's start rapid fire. What do you consider the most overrated virtue?
The overrated virtue, just generally?
Yes.
God. Overrated. Pardon? Humility. Oh my God. Well, I wouldn't call that a virtue. I guess, you know what? I'll go with humility.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Next question. What is your greatest extravagance?
Oh, My dog, I guess, and the treats and the toys and the...
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was going to say the dog itself could not be called an
No.
extravagance. No, but that's
Not that
love,
dog.
right? I
Not
mean,
that dog.
you love your dog.
I do love my dog, yeah.
What is your favorite cocktail?
Oh, a Boulevardier, which is a Negroni, but with bourbon instead of gin.
All right, let's slow it down just a little bit. Can you tell us about your season of death? And what you felt you learned and what perhaps the audience learned?
Yeah, that's a great question. I like talking about the season of death. A lot of you will remember it. It was maybe my fourth or fifth season. We had programmed, in putting the season together, we had commissioned James Fagan Tate and Julissa Pancania. Julissa, a composer, Jimmy, a playwright and director, and they together had created this sung-through version of Crime and Punishment, which was phenomenal, followed up by a sung-through version of Dostoevsky's The Idiot. Fantastic theater. And so we commissioned Jimmy and Julissa to create a piece for the Belfry, and they did, and it was called The Life Inside. And it was about the kind of workers on an estate at the turn of the century. The workers discover that the daughter of the estate owners, one of the daughters of the estate owners, has drowned in the river. And at the same time that we're watching them, we can see the living room of the estate owners, and they're there and they're happy and they're playing with their other two children. And the whole play is about the moment before tragedy strikes. Anyway, it was too large. The general manager at the time said we can't afford to do the play. So in the meantime, I had programmed The Trespassers by Morris Panitch, which is a very sweet play, which ultimately is about euthanasia, although it's sort of buried within the beautiful story of this grandson and his grandfather. And then the general manager came to me and said, let's just do it. We'll find a way to do The Life Inside. But it meant that I had to take out a play and put in a smaller play. And so I chose David Mamet's The Cryptogram, which is a masterpiece, but also a really dark piece of theater. So it was Trespassers, Life Inside, Cryptogram, and then two pianos, four hands, but by then it was too late. So they were a beautiful production. They were all good productions. But I remember watching people leave after the Cryptogram. So it was February. It was dark outside. They'd seen this disturbing play, and I'm watching them go out into the darkness and thinking, we have not prepared people properly for this experience. And so as a result, we created B4Play. We created Upstage Magazine. We tried something called Afterplay, which were conversations patron to patron. They were challenging to get going. But before, and also we instituted why I chose this play in the brochures, so that people had an idea of all of you had an idea of what you were coming to see before you saw it, and also to know, although people know that the decisions have been made about what the programming is, just to actually say these are the reasons why we think these plays should be here and why we think you might enjoy them. Mm-hmm. And what happened immediately that we started doing those additional kind of outreach pieces, emails stopped. Like any emails saying, I saw that play, I didn't like it, I'm never coming back to the Belfry. that every theater gets, and we'd get them after every play. There'd be a handful of them. They stopped dead. Like, not that we didn't have as many, they stopped. And I think it was just whether people read Upstage Magazine or came to B4Play, I think people understood that there was information about the pieces if they wanted to take advantage of it. So, yeah, that's the story of the season of death, and it was the best thing that ever happened. Mind you, subscriptions went way down, and we had to build back up. But what also happened was the people that that we're saying I work all day and I don't go to the theater to think, I go to be, entertained. Though we lost those people, and we ended up with people who come to the theater because they want to think and be stimulated. So thank you all for coming to the Belfry.
For the record, you have entertained us as well along the way.
Thank you.
You have directed musical theater, not just thinking pieces, but thinking musical theater, opera, and plays as well. How does each experience compare?
Oh gosh, they're very different. Well, opera's the easiest one to talk about because it's so deceiving, especially here because Pacific Opera, because of the size of the stage of the Royal, Pacific Opera builds its sets. So you work with a designer designing the set, designing the costumes, which doesn't happen often in the opera world. Oftentimes, the Houston Opera will rent a set from Vancouver Opera, and these sets kind of move around. And I guess there's a binder, and you kind of go, I like that one better. Elaine, you can tell us better than anybody. But here, because the Royal has limitations space-wise, you get to go through that whole process. And then you go in the rehearsal hall, and it feels very much like rehearsing a play. And then you hit the theater, and there is no time, and it's a bit of a shocker. And whatever time there is essentially the maestro's time, as it should be. But it's so it's deceiving. You kind of think, oh, I know the schedule of this, but the kind of time that we're having now on stage is huge luxury compared to opera world. On the other hand, it's also glorious to be in a rehearsal hall, and suddenly, one singer will start to sing during the rehearsal, and then the other one will go, well, if she's going to sing, I'm going to sing, and suddenly you're getting a full-blown opera in a room, not much bigger than this. So, and musicals, what I love to do with a musical is to mix actors who've never done musicals before with singers and dancers, because the actors are so in awe of the talent of the singers and the singer-dancer actors, not to take acting out of that, but the singer-dancer actors. And the singer-dancer actors are so impressed with the actors that everybody just kind of, their game just improves because they're all just so kind of impressed with each other. And I also find it, I love doing musicals. I think there's just such a, there's so much emotion in songs that it's a kind of great place to live for a while, working on them.
Now, this one may be too similar to the last one. I'll let you decide. Not many people get to experience the inside of a rehearsal hall, but what's something about the process of rehearsing in general that you think might surprise people?
How slow it is, maybe, at times. How would you say, Morgan? Like at times working out a moment can, and how it evolves, and how much fun we have, I think. Maybe would that be surprising? I think this is a wonderful group of actors, and everyone admires each other's work, and all of that just feeds into the overall project. What else is surprising? The hours probably would surprise people. Yeah.
The length of them, or when they occur?
The length of them. Yeah. We just, Tuesday I guess we started doing lighting on Wednesday, so we rehearsed I start at 10. Normally you start at 10, but I start at 10:30 because I find that extra half hour in the morning just makes a huge difference. So 10:30 to 6 we rehearsed, and then from 7 to 11 we were doing lights, the stage manager and designer and I. And then the same thing on Thursday, and now we're in what we call 10 out of 12s, which means we start rehearsal at noon and we go till 11:30. So that's in the lead up to opening. So that was for you, Morgan. That sympathy. And
I didn't realize that. I didn't know how long those were. Yeah.
There you see, you're surprised.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think this one is from staff, but I think this probably is one that we're all wondering. What are you most looking forward to post Belfry?
Oh, gosh. Having time in my garden, cleaning out my basement, and so all my life I've known that it was wrong to make my work my life, but I did, and I did it without regret. Like I knew it, you know, it was the wrong thing to do, but I don't regret it. However, as a result, I don't have a life outside the theater, so I'm curious to see what that is. You know, I have a limited number of real close friends here in Victoria, so I'll see. It's going to be a whole new life for me, and the dog is going to hate not coming to the theater because he's going to get very bored with me very quickly.
But on the topic of coming to the theater, are you hoping to be a freelance director? I can't imagine you without a creative outlet.
Thank you. Yes, I have a couple of Vicky gigs lined up for next year. So yeah, so I'm certainly not. In my mind, I'm not retiring, and I hope in the people who hire, they don't think I'm retiring.
Yeah. So no plans to take up golf then?
No. Excellent.
Michael, I'd like to thank you personally just for having me here at B4Play all these years. It's been a real joy, and I mean that deeply. And I think on behalf of the community, I think it's fair to speak. Thank you. You've given us so much, and I won't even try to put it in words, but I will say from the bottom of my heart, thank you for everything you've done for us as a community. It's deeply appreciated.
Thank you, Gregor. Thank you to Gregor for 12 years.
No.
12 years.
12 years.
And every year Gregor says to me, if you want somebody else to put next year, I'll do it. But go ahead and ask somebody else, but I'd love to do it. So.
Yeah. Thank you, Michael. And thank you for coming. Remember, the box office is open if you don't have your tickets yet.